Hey, security peeps. We are live with another edition of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. And this is our fun CISO Thursdays. I'm Renee Small, cybersecurity super recruiter, helping amazing cybersecurity leaders hire great talent. We have guests, we have awesomeness. I am going to start off with Naomi.
Well, no, it's AJ's moment. Should start with AJ.
Well, we're waiting for people to come in. We're waiting for people to come in.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to go around. AJ will be last.
Yeah, I'll warm up act.
Yeah, we're warming it up. Go ahead, Naomi.
Hey, I'm Naomi. What's up, guys? I'm actually a customer of AJ, so I'll let him talk about his company more. But excited to be here. Thanks, Renee, as always. Love being here on Thursdays.
It's so much fun. And James Azar.
What's up, people of LinkedIn? Hi, Naomi. Hi, AJ. Hi, Renee. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
It's Thursday. It's Thursday.
It's Thursday fun day. This is our fun day.
It's my favorite day of the week. It's Thursday. I'll tell you why, because I don't do a practitioner brief tomorrow, so I get to enjoy my Friday morning. I don't got to wake up at 5 a.m. to do this. Renee texted me at 4:30 this morning, and I was like, okay. We're not normal people. Most people are asleep. We're worried about insurgency. We're sitting with our guns, where are the people going? Where the zombies? Where's the zombies?
I was sending you guys messages 3:30. Here's the link.
I saw. Yeah, I was like, don't you sleep?
There is no sleeping going on right now.
Apparently.
And our guest for today, Mr. Brand New CEO AJ Yawn. Say hi to everybody, AJ.
Hello, LinkedIn. Thank you for the warm welcome and my phone going off.
You're busy.
It's your hype music.
I told somebody this yesterday. My phone wasn't as crazy as it was yesterday since at Florida State we beat Duke at home when I was playing on the basketball team when they were #1 in the country, and that was the last time my phone was as crazy as it was yesterday. It's awesome. It's been amazing. Been a cool 24 hours.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Totally. So AJ, as we get started, we shout out some people. I mean, you've been here before, so you know how this goes.
Yep.
Chibuki says, hi guys, hey. And Bryant says, hello, Naomi. He's not even talking to the rest of us.
Dang.
He just said, hello,
Bryant.
Naomi.
Doesn't care about us.
I paid him to say that.
So
people come here for Naomi. We're just all
Exactly.
side pieces. Just understand that.
we know our roles here.
I'm happy to play back up to Naomi, though. It's a good goal.
It's all about Naomi here. Well, we're going to kick it off with two things we're going to do today. We're going to let AJ do a shameless plug in the beginning and in the end. And then we're going to talk about Naomi's the hottest topic, job descriptions again. I mean, Naomi, you've been doing a lot of research recently. There's been job descriptions that I think there was 43% of those entry-level jobs that only that say they need 5 years of experience.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I got the data, man, to back it up. Let's talk about it.
So ridiculous. All right, AJ, first up, AJ, and then James, as usual, will be our hype man. So AJ, kick it off. Tell us about your business. It's oh, look who's joining. Looky.
It looks like you just got out of bed, Chris.
Should I shut him off? AJ, it's all you right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for allowing me to do this. Definitely not needed, but so BiteCheck is a cybersecurity compliance assessment platform that our slogan is really what we do. We make compliance suck less by eliminating evidence collection, taking away all that manual stuff that you go through in the cybersecurity audit, those long meetings with auditors where they have no idea about the technology you have and they're asking all these crazy questions. Get rid of all of that. The BiteCheck platform connects directly to the apps that you're using, like AWS, GitHub, Jira, et cetera, and focuses on security. These compliance assessments cost a lot of money. They are manual and they take up a lot of time. So at least they should focus on security and get some value out of them. And that's what we're doing here at BiteCheck.
Awesome.
Brilliant, AJ. I'm excited to see a demo, buddy.
Whenever, well, let's do it right before the podcast we do together. Or we do a live on the podcast. There we go.
Well, it's Veteran November, so we'll stick to veterans and a little cyber. But yeah, we will.
Totally, AJ. Thank you so much for that. Shouting out some more people who are here. So Bryant is laughing at us because we told him, hey, you better care about us all. So he says he really cares about all of us. Hello, everybody. Separis says, hello, everyone's here. Yes, we're here. Great to see you. Keith, good morning from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hello, Keith.
All right. Some good-looking people there saying hi.
I know. It's a lot of good folks in here. Naomi.
Yeah, hi.
Let's get with the data. This is
nuts. Yeah. I'm glad the timing was perfect. I'd forgotten about CISO Thursdays. I apologize. So there is first of all, the only reason why I was able to get this data is because LinkedIn has a replayable CSRF CSRF token. So if they fix their CSRF token at any point, like I would not be able to get this information. So I've already, emailed LinkedIn. I'm like, you guys can replay your CSRF tokens. You're like, oh, that's fine. I was like, okay, well, let's continue. So I basically went on the LinkedIn API. There's a hidden API. If you guys do view source, you can find it. But it's the Voyager API, and you can just send in any authenticated GET requests and hit all their endpoints. Like, it's insane. But I found a couple, and I just played around until I found some. I found profiles. I found job things. So the other day, I just went through 1,000 random job postings for information security jobs, and I broke down the data since it's all JSON anyway. I just broke it all down, and I found out what we all know from anecdotal evidence, that entry-level cybersecurity roles are kind of a joke. I mean, it's on average 5 years of experience is expected, and 43% of these entry-level job postings require the CISSP. And so just hit you guys with those two data points. Like, what do you think? Is this surprising to you, or is this like it's more ridiculous than ever?
Ridiculous. Like, it's beyond sad,
for an entry-level position, you need 5 years minimum experience. Let that sink in for a minute.
How ridiculous is that?
Let's define entry-level.
Yeah.
That's true. Like, can there be entry-level in cyber? What do you guys think?
I think so. I think the reason why companies put entry level is because they want to pay entry level prices, but they want to hire someone with higher skills. They want someone with a CISP or some experience, but they want to put entry level so that they can offer a way lower salary than what that person deserves. And I think entry level should exist in cybersecurity, and it should be real entry level. Like, hey, this person doesn't know much, but they're interested. They want to do well in the field. Maybe they have one cert, or maybe they're just thinking about getting a cert. I think there's so many other fields where you can just get in by being interested. And in cybersecurity, we're like, you need every cert. You need to have 12 languages, and we need you to have a master's. And also, you need to be 18 and only accept $40,000. Like, it's just these things don't go together.
It's crazy.
Well, AJ, do you think that's because people don't understand security? So what ends up happening is HR and the corporate governance ends up setting the standard for hiring people, right? And the standard is unreal. And a lot of times it could be because their first security person spoke 12 languages, had every cert, right? Yeah. And did that. And they go, well, we had him. Like, it's like having Tom Brady and then, whoever comes after Tom Brady, right? Like now you want to hire Tom Brady's.
Yep.
That happens much more often than you all may think. That is something that happens very, very often, where I've had to push back on leaders a number of times because they have Tom Brady. They had the person that literally grew up in the role. And when they first started out, they had 1 year, 2 years, whatever. They grew, they acquired all these skills over 5 years, 7 years. And then they revert back and say, oh, this is an entry-level role. I'm like, well, the person who just left is not entry-level anymore. That person is, when they first showed up, he or she had 2 years experience. So you're looking at trying to get, you're trying to get a person who has grown. You're getting a 15-year-old. You're asking for a 10-year-old Sorry. You're asking for a 15-year-old that was 10 when they started.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to take that, what you're saying, under consideration of the fact that some of us have a challenge in filling roles when it comes to budgets, right? So, I mean, you talk to any CISO who sits in any company, I don't care which one, unless you're a huge Fortune, 100 with a multi-million-dollar security budget, you've got to decide what roles you want to hire for, what you want to outsource, what you want to automate, what you want to kind of, get tools for. And then you're trying to find unicorns to fill specific needs, because contract work, like I think most of you would agree, doesn't always work. Yep. Contract work is typically a recipe for for failure. I'm sorry. That was like Freud. That was so like Freudian in nature. Like it's like failure, right? I mean, that's what it is. It's failure, because the more you outsource, the more you outsource and the more you give out outside of your org, the less continuity you have in your stacks, and the less continuity you're able to build off of, and so you end up with a challenge.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about people not understanding what they need. Like you said, they want a unicorn, but they might not need a unicorn. They might just need someone with a certain set of skills. And I'm not trying to give companies a way out, because I think they should improve their job descriptions. But I don't know if it's not popular opinion, is that folks that are trying to break into cybersecurity have to just decide they're going to stop going down that route and blind applying and trying to use those job descriptions, and find other ways and creative ways to get in contact with hiring managers and get in contact with people, because we've been talking about job descriptions for so long, for a really long time. And I think it's going to be a problem for a while. Like it's not going to go away for a while. So folks that are looking for jobs have to figure out different ways to use LinkedIn or use other tools to get in front of the right people.
I agree with you. This job description thing has been going on forever. And it's funny, when I first started my company, I wanted to train HR people. Like, the whole purpose of me starting out was, hey, I want to have this consulting thing, go to HR, train HR people, tell them how to, write good job descriptions, do all this stuff. But guess what? Nobody cared. They were like, we don't want that. Can you recruit for us though? We need the body. I'm like, I can teach you to fish. I can fish for you. They're like, yeah, yeah. So it's unfortunate. Tons of great comments coming in. So I'm going to show some here. Let's see. I blame part of it. Safair's always here. I blame part of it on people who have experience but willing to take those jobs because they need a job. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of applicants, and they're just about to quit job searching in cyber. And it breaks my heart, because these people are really passionate. They have masters in cybersecurity. And I literally had one guy talk to me, and he was like, I'm about 4 months away from graduating with my master's, and I'm about to quit. It's just so frustrating trying to get jobs. I was like, no, don't quit. Like, you're so close. And like, what kind of things aren't working for you? I'm hearing, I'm just applying and no one's getting back to me. I'm getting ghosted. The stuff I am trying to put out there, people are just ignoring. So people who are experiencing that, they just get so frustrated. And so when they do end up getting a job, it's not even related to what they want to do. And then they either get stuck in that job and they still can't break out and break into cyber. So it's doubly impossible. It's like an impossible task for them.
Well, when someone's looking for a job and they need a job, they need money. This is their livelihood. Right. And I don't know how many of y'all had to struggle for your bread. I know I did. Nothing was ever given easy to me personally, right? I mean, I had a period in time where I was homeless, sleeping in my car, right? And that was a decade ago, literally a decade ago, right? So 10 years ago, I didn't have a house. I was a VP of a company and I was sleeping in my car. But when you need a job, you don't care what job comes in. You don't care what it pays. You want the job because you want to get the money. You want to get back to working and you want to feel productive. Beyond the money, it's about self-confidence. How long can someone sit without a job and still maintain their worth or their self-confidence? I mean, that's the challenge of COVID. if we just deviate off of that, what the lockdowns and COVID did is they eliminated a lot of worth to a lot of people and confidence. It destroyed businesses. People were laid off and they couldn't find jobs. They couldn't do anything. So they sink into alcohol and drugs and all kinds of other remedies. Right. So, it's a comment that I go like, you can't blame those people because people want to work. People want to feel productive. They want to contribute. We can't solve this problem per se in any way, but talking about it, informing people, and hoping that the trickle-down effect of change takes place.
Yeah.
Because we can't regulate people on how to get paid. That's not how the free market works, right? We can't go to companies and force them to do something. It's a private business. They're entitled to pay and put out whatever they want. But what we can do is we can come together as a community and educate. And the conversation we're having right now, where AJ, Naomi, Renee, and Chris, the five of us, and everyone who's watching, that's people who can take this conversation forward to their break room, to their Slack channel, and educate the HR people, because HR people watch this stuff. They know, they see. So letting that come in and making them part of the conversation helps kind of eliminate some of that. But you can't blame people for taking a job, because we're dealing with people who don't have jobs, who would do anything for a job. And so any job they can get, they're going to take.
Here. James for president. Point. That was amazing. Well said.
We put him up last week. We put James for president up last week.
Oh,
we
put him up.
Did he win? We voted. Well, they're still counting the votes.
They're still counting the votes. There's some irregularities with the software. There's some irregularities with the software right now.
He's in Atlanta. Real shifty down there.
I have one thing I saw that recently or a few months ago is Jonathan Rao, who's a cloud security manager at IHS Markit. He posted a few jobs and he actually wrote the job descriptions. And he took it out on his own as the cloud security manager and leader to write the job descriptions. And they were great job descriptions. Like, it was really explained what he needed, what you needed to be interested in. And I think that's part of the fix, is we can push it more on us security professionals to say, HR, I got this. Like, I need to hire this person, but let me write the job description, because I don't need a CISSP. I don't need you to have 12 AWS certs. Like, we're not even hosted on AWS. Like, the security manager could actually get more involved. I think that's how we help to slowly bridge this gap. And on the other end, like, the candidates, you have a role in this. You have a role into trying to find a better way to get in. But I think if we expect HR to get better at writing job descriptions for security professionals, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath at all.
Do you feel that HR managers, security managers claim that you're too busy too often to sit down and write those, so they just pass the buck on?
I don't think anybody's too busy to do anything. I think it's about time management. Most people are doing 12 things at once, and which is why they can't do anything. But if you sit down and decide, I'm going to spend 20 minutes writing a job description, you'll get it done. But if you write a job description, check your email, get on Slack, go on LinkedIn, respond to somebody else, check a log that came in. Oh, alert over here. Like, we're squirrels sometimes in the security industry, where we just bounce around. And I think it's focus. I think it's a focus problem. Whenever somebody tells me they're too busy, I'm like, all right, what did you do today? Let's start from the beginning. Let's start from when you woke up. And then you can find probably like 3-4 hours, throughout the day where they wasted time. Something I learned really early in the military. I had a boss who was really a battalion commander who was just all about managing our time and making sure that we were actually effectively using our time. And I think anybody, not just security managers, when you say you're too busy, like, really peel back the curtain and see what you're doing and what you're doing with your time, because you probably wasted some time in there.
Yeah, same with security people who say they work 80 hours a week. I'm like, that is just really unsustainable. Like, podcasters and content creators, like, that's different. But security managers and security practitioners who are like 80 hours in a day, like, or a week, I'm like, how do you do that? That's ridiculous. That's why you burn out.
Security jobs 24/7, 365, right? We're all on call.
You're on call, but you're not like sitting there in front of the sim and like,
right. You're absolutely. And I think a lot of times you get an alert and it takes you 2 seconds to look at it and go, okay, we're done. Right. Like, it's taken 2 minutes, but people have a tendency to over exaggerate. And I'll go back to the comment about, there's a comment in here and maybe you can pull it up. It's by Andre Harris, Renee, where he said that he's turned down jobs for more because he wants more money. And there's an aspect to that sometimes where I've met candidates who've showed up to the job and they're like, yeah, I want to make, what's your salary expectations? And they go, 150. And you're like, okay, like, real world here. Let's ring a bell. It's an analyst job. It's an analyst role. Like, no one's paying $150,000 for an analyst. Like, there's also an aspect of people who are trying to get people to go into security saying you can make a ton of money, go get your certs and you can make $150,000 a year. And let's speak the truth. That's not the case. You got to get experience. You got to eat crap along the way. You're going to have to do some mundane jobs that are very boring, but you got to earn your stripes. AJ and I were in the military, right? You don't come in as an E7.
Yeah.
No one comes in you come in as an E1, E2 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that there's so many I'm to your point, James, that there's so many people and so many boot camps and so many universities that are selling pipe dreams to a lot of these prospective students. And that's what is really, to me, that's one of the really painful parts, because a lot of these folks, to James, they were kind of like you, like they're working 2-3 jobs. They're doing all this stuff. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And then they're working, they may have children, they may have whatever. They're working at a Target, they're working at a Walmart. And then they're going to school because they believe that they can have this jump, right, and make this bigger salary because this university told them that. And then when they get in there on the way out or afterwards, you realize like this isn't really what it seems. And that to me is so deceptive. And I know people, universities are making a living too, or they're selling a product too, or a service. But I think it's really, really unfortunate, because those are the part of the reason why Chris and I started this podcast, is because it was those people that showed up that thought, hey, I'm going to make, I know I'm at Target making $20, $15, whatever dollars an hour. And they're telling me I can make 90 or 100 or whatever. And some of the companies will pay that for some of the roles. I have seen some entry level, straight out of college, 4-year degree candidates making 6 figures, but it's tiny. It's minimal. It's certain universities that have programs that partner with people. Some universities they do, but it's very, very small. And the vast amount of everyone else is starting in a true entry level role. And I think that that's where a lot of the disconnect is. And it's unfortunate. Totally unfortunate.
That's a good point. The comments lit up, Renee.
All right, folks, let's get the comments going. And let's see here. So, good morning, Andre. We talked about you already. David says recruiting and retaining should be the standard. I agree. This is somebody. Matt says hire Tom Brady at a rookie level salary.
Good luck.
Right. Well, that's what we're trying to do.
If you hire like a Tom Brady clone and he doesn't know he's Tom Brady yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Tom Brady before he got drafted.
Like
Michigan Tom Brady.
Like Michigan Tom Brady, or Tom Brady after the draft, like Tom Brady as a Drew Bledsoe backup.
Right.
Yeah. Wasn't he undrafted, Tom Brady?
No, he was the 6th.
Oh, okay. Wow,
you
guys
was like
know
pick
your sports.
199.
Okay. I'm in the wrong.
My goodness.
Like, look, if you go to Boston, every guy who ever goes to Boston goes to the TB12 gym. Like, that is just like
Chris had to leave.
Bye, Chris. You go to TB12 gym, Naomi. You go to Tom Brady's gym, which is in downtown Boston, and you buy some supplements, and you're like, how do I land a Brazilian like Tom Brady? And that's that.
Right. So Andre, actually, he has a couple comments here that I want to put all together. So he says, as someone trying to break into the cybersecurity sector, I've experienced this when applying for positions. And it was extremely frustrating, with meaning like asking for 5 years. And then he, the other comment was around turning down roles. But then down here, he says, let's see. He says, I wanted the money. There were a couple of points. I just want to make sure I get them all together. He turned down some roles, and he said they wanted to pay $40K, but he had, I want to be making money so much? Is this because I don't want to take a job holding 5 certifications, 10 years of IT experience, 15 years of management experience for $40,000 a year?
You're absolutely right, Andre. But at the very beginning, when like that's a role you shouldn't have even interviewed for, right? Like that should have been like something like, oh, you know, a $40,000 a year job is what, like an analyst? Like who gets paid 40 in cyber?
Yeah, nobody. But they try. They try to put it out there.
I mean, that's what companies try to do. They try to lowball you and get you as less money as possible, right? Yeah.
No, but if you've got like 5 certs and 10 years of experience, right? There's no reason in the world why anyone should offer you 40. And there's no reason why, you know, in a proper HR process, there's no reason you'd be in that job interview.
Yeah. And sometimes I got to tell you this, sometimes leaders, you know, like when you go to look at a house, and I'm thinking about this because I just came from looking at a house. So when you go look at a house and you know, like it's way over your budget, but you still want to see it anyway, like, ooh, I want this. And so leaders.
The worst thing you could do. The worst thing you could do to yourself. Leaders no house in your budget is going to be the same ever again.
Leaders do that all the time. They look at people, some of them, not everybody, not you wonderful leaders here, but some leaders, they look at people and they're like, oh, well, you know, this person applied. And I'm like, well, this person's, you know, comp range is X. And it's this back and forth thing. And then they still want to see the person and what have you. And they said, well, they applied. And I, you know, as a recruiter, and I'm setting expectations all the time, setting expectations with the leader, setting expectation with the individual. This is a $150,000 individual, and this is the kind of comp that they're accustomed to getting. You know that you have, you know, a 90K job or 100K job or even 120K job. And it's like, hey, this person may very well take this role for whatever reason. Maybe they're out of work right now, but as soon as that market turns around and they can get that 150, 175, you out. Just had somebody, you know, that's overqualified, bored, you know, all these various things. So again, it's like consultative, but people at the end of the day kind of do what they want to do. And that's one of these areas where, you know, I have to hold the leader accountable too. Like, hey, you know, you going down a road here, especially if a person says that this is what they're accustomed to getting. More comments. Lincoln says, well said, AJ. That's what's needed. We need folks who understand the job requirement, actually write in the description. I 100% agree with that. I think James and I talked about this, I believe, last week about that other CISO job that we had posted up that was an entry-level CISO role, which is...
Yeah. Yes, folks, it was a CISO role and it was entry level. I think they pay you $45 a year. And then for every day without an incident, you get a $500 spiff. And then for a breach, you get a pink slip, a PR press release, and no opportunity to be a CISO ever again.
Good luck, right? Exactly.
Wow.
One of the ladies here says, I think this was, I'm trying to look at, Anita made a comment. She talked about people not knowing their worth and are willing to take whatever is offered to them. We should understand the value we bring to the organization. That's another, I think, really valid point. Like knowing how much a role, again, setting that expectation. Like these are the types of interns. I had this thing with interns this summer where I'm working with some, you know, trying to bring some interns on, and interns were asking for a whole lot of money. I was like,
interesting about the data that I looked at, there are only 4 internship positions out of the 1,000 that I queried, and that is just ridiculously low, right?
Now,
of
Naomi,
course, the internships. How far back?
Yeah. Did you go back to like the beginning?
I actually don't know. I think it's whatever the API decided to give me, but they do expire. So if you look at the data itself, it doesn't have an expiration date, but they can just repost it. So it's kind of hard to see how old it is.
But internships during COVID has gone down significantly.
That could be it
everywhere.
Too. Yeah, could be it.
Yeah. Were there any apprenticeships?
No, it was just like intern is one of the categories. So that was just one of the things. Yeah, it's like entry level and intern.
Yeah, they probably put them together. If there's apprenticeships involved, they probably would put them under an intern or an
intern.
level.
There was only 4, and I thought that was ridiculous.
We should do a way better job
out of 1,000
getting people internships. I think those are a great way to get someone a resume bullet. It's not a huge, commitment for the organization, and it's a great way just to kind of get your feet wet in a low threat environment, low threat role. But Going back to the value comment, I think that's so true, especially for military members, James. I'm sure you agree too. Like getting out of the military, we don't know how to negotiate salaries. We don't know anything about that. So the first salary you get, if it's anywhere near your base pay, you're like, sign me up. I want to just make sure everything's good and I'm doing the same stuff I was doing in the military and all the money looks the same. And like, I made that mistake when I first got out. And then 3 months in, I'm like, hold on, like, let me go interview. And I realized I was keeping myself short there. So I think that's so important for military and everybody. Like I tell folks, no matter how happy you are in a job, go interview somewhere else so that you always know your worth. Like consistently interview and find out like, what are you worth? And then what don't you have? Because the interview will tell you, like a lot of people think, oh, I can go make 150. Oh, you probably can't. Like go find out and get rejected a few times and you'll see that you're not quite there yet and then find out why and then you can work towards that. And I think that helps you find in your value.
I think you have to kind of, you're right, AJ. When people leave the military, they know nothing about negotiating a salary. None at all. But you know what? Most college kids don't know how to negotiate a salary.
Yep.
Most people who are quiet and get their job done don't know how to negotiate a salary. The only people who know how to negotiate a salary from my experience, and again, I'm generalizing here, so please like don't let the comment section blow up, right? But are typically the people who know how to talk, but don't know how to do.
People who interview. I mean, I talk about this all the time when I hear from people who say, oh, like resumes. That's one that you want to see me get real riled up. A manager will be like, oh, the resume. I'm like, these people are not professional resume writers. Like they're working. This person's been working for 8 years in a company. Like, of course, it's not going to be the flashy, perfect resume that you're seeing out there that people are constantly looking for a job. You know, folks that interview, you know, if you're doing your work and you're interviewing a ton, I mean, if you're, you know, down deep in your work, that means that you're not necessarily out there interviewing all the time. Mm-hmm. So they might not be the very best interviewer per se, but that doesn't mean that they don't fit the role and they're not a good fit. So I'm constantly telling folks, like, you know, you got to set your expectations and realize that these are humans. Like we are all humans. And to your point, I mean, James and AJ, I've done a lot of, I would go to, is it called TAP? Can't remember. Yep. The TAP, right? And go and talk about like negotiating salaries in particular for military, for veterans coming out, because I wanted people to be aware, you know, like do your research as much as you can, know your worth, know what's going on out in the marketplace, because I understand that I'm not a veteran. Thank you all for your service, especially during this week and this month. But realizing like, you may not know, like sometimes I tell people like, hey, you know, you're asking for what? Like it should be more, you know, your range should be around here with the level of experience that you have. And people have even asked me sometimes, should they, some of the folks that have like a lot of experience, and they're trying to, again, when they're looking for work, this happened. I'm thinking of a person who I worked with a lot last year. They were looking for work and they would ask, you know, should I lowball myself? Or should I say a certain number that's not within the worth? And I told them, I said, look, sometimes when you're too cheap, it looks bad too. Like it doesn't line up. So if if I'm looking for a person that's supposed to be around 150 and you're saying you're 90K, I'm like, this guy didn't really do all of this then. Like something's off. So you really want to kind of do that research and understand what it is you're looking for. I mean, like where you really should be fitting in. And I would recommend people talk to peers, talk to leaders, you know, outside of the, you know, just salary.com and things like that. But you can go and talk to other peers and talk to leaders and look at the different statistics and see where you fit in, because you definitely don't want to shoot yourself way over, and you don't want to be going way down either. Because when it doesn't align, it's like you're going to buy a car, going to buy a house. Like this Mercedes is supposed to cost 50 and it's 35. Like what? What's going on here? You know? So couple more comments. CISO Thursdays. Who's this? Chris Van Gorder is here. He says CISO Thursdays. He's excited. Danielle is here. Yay. Negotiating a salary is a skill that can be practiced and learned. I 100% agree about that. Roger says here the old gift of gab to get a higher salary. It is true. Andre says these are recruiters calling me after finding my resume on websites. Okay, so when we said to Andre that you shouldn't be applying, Andre is saying they found him. So these are recruiters looking for him, finding him, and saying, "Hey, this is the salary," and he's like, "Goodbye," which I 100% agree. You know, like somebody calls me up and says certain numbers, like, sorry, can't help you. Okay, so who is this? Salendra wants to know, could you comment on the role of security in regards to the business continuity aspect of any company? How important is it for cybersecurity professionals to understand what value security brings to the business, proactive and reactive? Wants to take that, baby?
Naomi.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was like, I have a good answer for this one. So this is funny because one of the interview questions I like to ask is, what's the role of security at a company? And I can tell their level of maturity by their answer. So like, I'll just put you on the spot. James, what's the role of security at a company?
Secure it.
So that answer is fine. But I was looking for something like to enable the business to move forward in a secure or risk-free manner as possible. So I think that is a more mature
Did you just say
answer.
risk-free?
Well, more of a risk-free manner as possible.
Okay.
As risk-free as possible, yeah. But so if your job was to just secure the enterprise, then yeah, you just turn off access to everything. Like everyone gets a Chromebook and no one gets to go on the internet. Like there are very easy ways to secure an enterprise. But if they're going to do anything, you know, you have to let them do stuff, and it's going to include risk. So one of the questions I ask, and I can get their level of maturity, and their answer is, what is security for a business? And if they say, hey, it's just to lock everything down, then I'll be like, well, that's not the point. That's not really what I'm going for. So if you understand this question, it's like, how important is it for new cybersecurity professionals to understand what value security brings to the business? If you are answering the way that James did, sorry, James, but if you're saying, hey, it's just
I give you a bad example. I wanted you to give a good one.
Thank you. James was my noob. But if you said it's just to secure the business and don't really let this business do anything, then I'll say, well, let's take another look at that, because that's what a new person would say. Like, I get that. But the longer you're in security, the more you realize it's actually almost the opposite. You want to enable the business. You want to get them as secure as possible, moving forward as fast as possible in a risk-free manner as possible. That's what I like to say. It's kind of like IT, you know, like IT is there to help enable the business. They're going to give them the tools and the services and the products that they need to move forward. And security is the same way. You know, you're going to hold their hand sometimes, but they're going to move forward with or without you. And you want them to use your expertise and your experience, and you help them move forward. You are a service for the business. That is the answer I like to hear.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, which is it goes back to people who want to get a job in security. Is, do you understand the business? Do you understand the business side of security? Especially when you're looking at like director levels or VP, like let's get out of entry level for just a moment, right? Let's look at from either promoting from within or bringing someone to build a new team or lead a new team. Do you understand business? Do you know how to enable? Do you know how to make security not a red line on the budget sheet, but a black line, like a positive contributor to the business? And I'm not talking about semantics of we've stopped all of these threats and every threat equals some imaginary number that's based on a report that some vendor put out. I'm sorry, AJ, to support something for a technology they're trying to sell, but rather a real actual business drivers. And I think smart CISOs, and I'm lucky because when I do CISO Talk, I speak to so many brilliant peers. I've had Naomi on. You know, I just had Gary Hayslip on this week. Thank you, Renee.
Love Gary.
You got a shout out, by the way.
Love Gary Hayslip.
But you listen to all these, the very smart CISOs, and I think if more leaders listen to that, is how do you make security part of the sales process? How does it add value in the sales? How does it add value in what you're selling, in the software you're selling? How does it become an extra 10 or 15% margin because you can charge a little bit more because of the security programs you're putting in place? Those are really, really important points that like people who want to get a job in cyber need to know. And most universities, most certs don't teach them that. So we have the gap, the entry-level gap and the CISO gap, right? And in the middle, we have people that are supposed to learn on the fly, but no one's teaching them on the fly. Because if you're a red teamer, people are like, go do your pen test, write your report, give it to me, come into the meeting, shut up, don't say a thing, say what I tell you to say, read those bullets and leave, go do the other pen test. Seriously, I can't tell you how many people I speak with in organizations that's where, so they're not given the opportunity to develop. We're not growing from within.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't even get me started on growing from within.
We're not.
That's next week's topic.
But that's a challenge, and it's a challenge that starts. It's a challenge that starts for us as CISOs. I take personal responsibility for it because it's on us to educate our peers in our community, right? When we're at conferences, when we're speaking on panels, when we're doing podcasts, is how do we promote from within? How to create a culture where even if you want to hire someone who's got way more skills, but the only position you have is an entry-level position that he's going to take for $20,000 a year less than what he would normally earn, can you give that person a track, a timeline to get him not only to where he should be, but also remove that glass ceiling that probably would have been in the place anywhere else? Meaning, could he excel and within 2 years reach a position that in other places would take 3 or 4 years to do it?
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
I think, James, what you said is really key. I've seen a lot of security programs in my day-to-day work, and the best security programs are the ones that you can see it on their website. You can see it in their materials where they're selling security. When that CISO or that security manager has convinced the business that security is something that can help drive business, they get to do whatever they want. Their budget is ridiculous. They get to do things. They get to have all the tools they want, the people they need, because they've convinced management that it's a wise business decision to do it. And I think that's the part where if we can convince more of our security professionals that are in these roles to security is a differentiator, especially nowadays. Like you can use it to differentiate yourself from your competitors. And when you do that, you're going to get more money. You're going to get more budget. You're going to be able to do more things. But like you said, a lot of security practitioners are grown up to where they're just taught to do tasks. They just do things and they're not taught about the business and understanding how this flows and participating in sales and participating in these conversations to hear what are the questions customers are asking. What do they care about? What are the things that they actually care about that what are your competitors saying about security that you're not doing? I think that's where we can get really strong security individuals that do cross that threshold and get from outside on the kiddie table and get to sit at the big table with all the other executives.
And Naomi's talked about this a number of times, being able to sell, being able to really understand the business and how it can be a driver. So I think you all are making some really valid points.
I want to inject something here, and I want to ask Naomi this, and then this is a question for you, AJ. So how many vendors, when you're getting a pitch, build their technology as part of the business case for you to sell cyber up in the business?
Well, they help me sell it, at least champion their tool, but I wouldn't say too often. Well, some of them do, but I don't think all of them do for sure. It's like maybe 50%.
Like, think how powerful it is if a vendor comes to you and goes, you're going to spend X amount of dollars on my tool, but my tool is going to allow you to do this, which is going to translate to more.
Oh, into ROI, yeah, like 0%.
But not fake ROI that you can take and put on the website, put under your security maturity program that becomes an enabler.
Yep.
Powerful.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I talked to a lot of vendors and I've never seen them be like, here's how much ROI you can expect. I would love that. That would help me sell
with it. AJ took that.
Take that little note. I'll get right on that.
Andre says, great point when it comes to salary negotiation. As a recent retiree, I agree 100%. It was hard for me to correlate my experience and skills to a dollar amount. And Roger wants to know, so is it okay to ask the interviewer what the range of the salary they are expecting to pay before an interview considers answering the salary expectation? Absolutely.
One of the things I do and I've done in past interviews is I force them to tell me something, and I frame it in a way that makes them feel like they have to. So I say, I expect to be paid what you value in this role. And in the job description, they say what they value, what this role is going to do, and all these things they're going to do. And I explain to them, like, you're saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. I know your company is a Fortune 500 company. You guys had X amount in revenue last year. So I expect to be paid consummate for what this job description says. And after that, they have to just throw it out there because they think in their mind that you're asking for a lot more money than what they probably can afford because they should be paying more money. So then they're just like, all right, look, the role is this. Is that going to be fine? And then you can get, your thought. And I think it's kind of an interview trick where you put it on them and tell them like, hey, this is what you're asking. This is what your company's doing. It's how much money you guys made. And I know my skills and I know what I'm worth in the industry. So what do you have? What are you going to pay me? And I think that's a lighter way to go around it. But if you just want to be straight up, I agree with you, Renee, like ask them. You should
yeah.
Get this.
You can ask for a range. You should. I mean, you should ask for ranges. I agree. I like that. I like what you said, AJ, because it does make you think like, oh boy, this person's gonna be they're not cheap. They're expensive.
You could get all of me for 1 year instead of $199 for $179 right now, $179. Call now.
On sale, baby.
Only
2020, 2021, the price goes up.
We are upping our prices in 15 minutes.
To completely switch gears though, Renee, I don't know if you wanted to talk more about this, but according to the research that I did with the data, it also turns out that executives are most likely to be searching for jobs. So if you look at the number of applications to each of the jobs, on average, executives score much higher with number of applications than other career level roles. So I always thought that was interesting too.
Because executives are always looking to move around, right?
I think it's 18 months. Yeah, every 18 months.
One, it's burnout. Number two is you start to see negligent decision making. And we've had enough big breaches to know as a CISO that when I see red flags, I'm walking away because I'm not going to be there when the hammer comes down. Because when it does happen, we're on the chopping block and our reputations are destroyed. You go to any cyber news website, you go to Bleeping Computer or any one of those other guys. I forgot them all right now. ZDNet or any one of those other websites, CSO Online, whatever. It's going to be like company so-and-so got breached, CISO so-and-so terminated or put on leave, or we'll be moving to an advisor role, right? Which pretty much means like,
what they say, CISO standard for something.
Chief Internal Scapegoat Officer.
Scapegoat Officer, yeah.
I do have a T-shirt that has a goat on it, and it says CISO. It's funny. Like I made these T-shirts like 2 years ago, and I gave them away at one of my CISO cocktails that we used to do before COVID came through. When we'd get together, and I used to make like fun T-shirts for everyone and give them some fun stuff that they would have some swag.
Yeah. So Earl, Chris Van Gorder says, Earl Schaub, I'll pay any car for $99.
Brilliant. Let's go. Naomi, you need a paint job?
No, not for $100.
Yeah, I'll pass.
You never know. It might be a really good paint job.
You're right. It could be flames on the side.
But today,
what about like the racing stripe in the middle?
The racing stripe.
With the that.
Let's go back to Fast and Furious. Everyone go 20 years and watch the first Fast and Furious now.
You'll be done by next week.
Exactly. But Naomi, that, to your point, the data shows, and it goes back to what I think about when I think about the entry level side and training staff and bringing in staff and being able to have that longevity at a company to be able to think about, okay, how long is it going to take me if I do bring in a couple interns or some more entry level staff, right? So I've seen those numbers and I know them actually pretty well. It didn't surprise me to see that, there was a lot of turnover on the leadership side, the directors of security and the CISOs, and then obviously all the way down at the bottom. And I think what your data showed was that there were a lot of applicants to CISO roles, right?
Yes.
So a lot of applications and things like that. And that doesn't surprise me either. And it, when I really take a little bit of a macro view of it all, it's just like, there's so many converging things that are happening. And one of the things that I think about when it comes down to the entry level side is, if these people are turning over every year and a half or 2 years, of course you're going to need somebody with 5-7 years experience, because you don't even have the time to bring in, somebody junior, right? Because by the time you need 2 years to get somebody from real deal entry level, like straight out of undergrad, straight out of community college, straight out of high school, whatever, or boot camp or program, and get them like functional. That's going to take a while.
You know what's interesting though, Renee? Like on the other end of that, the entry level roles had a very low number of applicants. So like people aren't even trying. Like
because
if you look
why
at
would they?
I know they're giving up before they even try. Like it's a crazy thing.
But your data said, I'm sorry, go ahead, Renee.
If I see a role, if I'm a recruiter and I have 2 years or 1 year experience or 0, or it's supposed to be entry level, and they say they're looking for somebody with 5 years experience, I'm probably not going to apply. Like I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, the data is showing that the number of applications for an entry level role is much, much lower than like all the other categories. I forget where it falls.
Why would anybody?
Why would anyone do that? Yeah, it doesn't pay.
Would you apply to a job where they're asking for 35 years of CISO experience? Like,
James, what were you going to say?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that you see often, like you said, 43% of the entry level roles, right? Like required like 5 years of experience in CISP. And so the reason you don't see a lot of applicants is because they go, I've got 2 years of experience. I don't have a CISP, right? I've got a certified ethical hacker or a security plus or whatever. And so I'm not even going to apply for it. Yeah. And I mean, and that's really where it all boils down to, is the fact that 43% of those entry-level positions have unrealistic entry-level
You can't even get a CISSP with 0 years experience. Right. Yeah, you can't even get one.
No, but you have these unrealistic standards that are put in place, and we've talked about it. What I like to call the HR signature, like the HR disclaimer on every job description and every job posting, that must have a bachelor's degree, that must these standards that are decided in HR without really consulting the rest of the organization. And, because they feel like that'll bring them better talent. It'll bring, the company should have some sort of standard and part of it, by the way, is because we're a lawsuit happy culture. Right?
Yeah.
Like if someone doesn't get hired for a job when they qualify for it, they have no problem going to a lawyer and sending a letter and going like, they didn't hire me because, whatever.
Well, I can tell you that those don't really, I mean, in my humble experience over almost 20 years, the external saying like, oh, I didn't get the job for whatever reason typically doesn't pan out well. And you don't get a lot of people doing that. But I do, James, agree with the point about the the legality, or, we've told our customers, or we've told, like I said before, this was one that was shocking, kind of mind box. I scratched my head on one scenario I had. Big 4 or Big 10 consulting, major consulting company had this awesome person with all the experience. They didn't have the degree, but they had the 15 years. They had everything else on the job description matched the resume. They had they wanted someone who was going to be a senior manager, who was going to be also, understood the sales pipeline, had delivered X amount of millions of dollars and, selling in this space, and from a different, a competitor, all this stuff, like every single thing, perfect looking candidate, but didn't have the degree. And when I asked the question, what came back to me was it was just too, they didn't want to like die on a sword for this scenario. Like, because everyone else had a degree, everybody else had this stuff, everybody else, the whole company or whatever had, these degrees and these certain certifications. So with that said, if I bring this person to the table, it's just going to pretty much turn over the whole apple cart, and everybody's going to start asking questions. And I don't want to be the person. I don't want the one chip that I have. I don't want to use it for this. And so I was just like, okay, like, it's unfortunate, but this is the leader. And I mean, again, as you all know, if you're in these big 4, big 10 or whatever consulting companies, and you are hiring a senior manager, that means you're all the way at the top. Like there's not many more roles on top of that one. It's like director and whatever, executive, you know. So these were the people that were like, let's just keep looking and try to find somebody else.
Yeah.
So it does happen, and there is a component of I don't know if it's optics per se or legality or looking at, okay, like what's going to happen with the rest of my team if I bring in this person or the rest of the organization or whatever, if I make an exception for this scenario. Couple comments coming in. Roger said, if the lawsuit is unmerited, it doesn't go far and can cost the person that files it. Yeah, those lawsuits, I mean, again, I've seen thousands at this point of people like go through the interview process. And I think one time I remember it wasn't even a real lawsuit. It was just like a complaint. And then when we pulled all the data, there was nothing to justify. And it was really hard, you know, and these people, what happens is people don't realize like who they're up against. Like you don't know unless you're unless you're an attorney or you're somebody like, okay, I'm going to be the woman, you're going to be the man, and we both apply, you know, like that kind of a thing. But when you're really trying to apply for a job, you don't know who else is applying. You don't know who else is interviewing. You don't know what the slate looks like. So, Safir wants to know what so many people don't understand is they can find talent in entry level and develop them for the future. So many of these jobs postings just want ready-made people for no reason. Yeah. Yep.
I think people are so scared to train people. They're so scared to invest, and they all don't have enough time to train someone. Yet you do. And if you train them, you're going to create a really great and strong resource. And we have to be willing to train people. I think that's part of the problem as well, is where we're not willing to put in the work to train people and get them better. We just want someone that shows up and knows everything, knows all the things already from the beginning. It's like, just invest in people and the results are going to be exponentially better than if you found someone ready-made.
They're going to be more loyal too. They're going to want to stay.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, they're going to be in a different. The challenge you have with that, AJ, is people don't want. Not only do they not want to train, training costs more money, and training someone costs money, and a lot of times, who's going to pay for it, right? So you can say it's a 50-50 split. So I'll hire you at $50,000 a year. You're not going to make your 80, but then I'm going to train you, and you're going to be worth 80 in a year. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah, I think that's the part right there. Is if a person is willing to break into this industry, the one thing I love about cybersecurity is growth. You can grow fast if you want to, if you work with, if you get a good opportunity and grow. But it's that part right there, James, is like, are you going to commit and say, all right, I'll start here, but I'm going to work my tail off to get to whatever that next level is, and that's the hard part.
A person who did that and is sitting in the CISO chair today is Kurt John. He's the CSO over at Siemens. Kurt, 10 years ago, started as a certified ethical hacker pen tester. Today, he's a CISO for a Fortune 500.
Wow.
Oh, boom.
10 years. Yeah. Boom. Mic drop.
Yeah. It happens.
Right. It does.
There it goes right there. That's what
right. It does happen. It works. But yeah, you got to be able to go in, train, and you as an employee who's willing to you got to take that training seriously. You got to put on your blinders. Don't look at what you can make somewhere else for a little bit and just focus on your training, focus on the job, understand a little bit of the company that's investing in you and build it out.
Yep.
And build your career, build your reputation.
Yeah. I have a couple of CISOs that literally is what they've done. They're going to start coming on here too and being some special guests, but definitely have been hearing from folks who watch this, love what we have to say, and want to bring in their opinion and share with people who, these are CISOs who've grown up in the field, started in different backgrounds, had different backgrounds, and then they come in and they train staff. And, a person I was talking to a couple weeks ago who will likely be on the next couple weeks, he said he had like 6 entry-level roles. He, hired all these entry-level people recently to be able to train, to bring them in junior and train them up. So folks are paying attention to us. Woohoo. I think this is Chris Van Gorder again, says, and if you train them, mentor them, think about it, which is the truth. Absolutely. And then Keith says, your performance in interviews and the quality of your resume comes down to preparation. Your preparation says a lot about your competence and professionalism. And I agree.
Can I just say one last thing here?
Go ahead, go for it.
Which is, when we do cyber, we're not doing cyber with technology. We're not doing cyber with computers. We're building our programs with people.
Yep.
And we refuse to invest in the one thing that's critical to our security program: people.
It's crazy.
All technologies can never replace people. I don't care what people say, AI, quantum. There's a human element of 4 people like us talking right now that if AI was doing it, could you imagine how boring this conversation would be?
Danielle says, I'm excited to say I got an internship with CyberAid.
Mazel tov.
Congratulations. And Roger says, the human element, we are at the 1 hour mark. This is fun, has always been fun. And AJ's like, I had enough, y'all.
Never. Thanks for having me
on. Absolutely.
Renee.
AJ, I think what she meant to say is she's giving you the last minute here to pitch ByteCheck and your new company that you launched yesterday. So go for it.
Right. I won't pitch the company. What I will pitch is this. I hate going to a website and downloading a document and I have to put my email in. It just really frustrates me because I don't want to buy the service. I just want the content. And tomorrow we will have a white paper coming out with everything that you need to know about SOC 2, and you'll be able to download it directly from our website. CISO Mag is helping us put it together, but you won't have to give up your email. I don't want your email to put you in a bunch of spam automated sessions. Just get the content, learn about SOC 2 from the ByteCheck website, and whenever we release content, that's how it will be. We're not going to ask for your email because I despise that. And what's the point of running a company if you can't do things you want, right? So that's the pitch. That's the 5.
Nice.
Yay, my favorite person lets me download a white paper without having to go get like a 15-minute email address so I can get it and then never
and trash it.
Exactly. I had all of it. That's a security thing. All security people have their email they use to download the white paper. It's like, I don't want that in MailChimp. I don't need you. I don't need your fake email in my newsletter subscriber list. That doesn't make any sense.
There you go.
Hilarious. Thank you so much, AJ, for being here. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Mr. James Azar. And we will be back next Thursday for another edition of CISO Thursdays.
And thank your veterans this month, folks.
Thank you, veterans.
Thank you so much,
veterans.
Yes, thank you, James. Thank you, AJ, protecting us, defending us, and making sure that we can be here talking freely in the United States of America.
Freedom.
All right, folks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.